So hello everyone, I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so welcome to today's Geeks of Thursday. That the comic speak is usually our tagline. And yeah, so for maybe those who it's their first time, Geeks of Thursday is just a community for developers to learn, engage, and share knowledge. And the knowledge is not limited to Android or web. We cut across Android, web, and also other software development topics in general, like maybe software pricing, project planning, and so on. We also have like a website, which is geeksofclassday.co.ke, where guys can write articles, be it technical and non-technical or so. And Geeks of Thursday is usually brought to you with love from AppLab KE, which is a software development company based in Kenya. Yes, so that is all about Geeks of Thursday. As I have said, what we do every Thursday, ideally, currently we don't do like every Thursday, but after every 2 weeks. So right now, the next session will be on 17th, the Thursday after 17th. So we have intro to development talks, code labs, fireside chats, productivity, product review, or launching, in case you have something you want people to review for you, or a couple of guys to give you feedback on code and all that. This is the place. And also we have open source contributions, where we have like an organization on GitHub where guys can get to contribute. Actually, our site is purely open source, where the backend is in Python and frontend is in, I think, Vue.js or something of the sort. Yeah, so in case you want to contribute, you can always liaise with either myself or Emmanuel Magak. So we also have like other interesting activities we usually recommend maybe to our attendees. The first one is usually Fun Friday. It happens bi-weekly. The last one was last week. So the next one will be next week. We have a couple of YouTube channels, just to highlight a few. First is the sessions we usually have on Thursday are recorded and uploaded on Geeks of Thursday channel on YouTube. So in case you want to see what we've been covering on the previous sessions, you can check on YouTube on Geeks of Thursday and have a look. We also have another channel by Frank Tamre, where he records videos about software development, mostly focusing on Android. And we also have Morandev, which is by Marvin. We can also check that. We have other events like Open Bar, which happens Friday, which is tomorrow, which is just like an open chat where you can discuss about everything on Android. Maybe you want your app to be reviewed also, or maybe get to interview like speakers and get to hear their stories and maybe get to hear what they say in terms of development. So we also have the meetups for Android 254 Kotlin Kenya and Flutter being back. The first one was last month, that is on August. We'll have like others to be posted. So just keep on check on their Twitter, Telegram channels. So we also have DroidCon EMA, which is by DroidCon KE. So this year, DroidCon KE is just like an Android developer focused conference, which is the largest in Africa. So this year we didn't have like a physical one, but we are going to have like an online one on October 8th and 9th. So that is the site to register. It will be a combination of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So you get to see amazing speakers from all those countries, and yeah, and continents also. So you can just check on maybe the speakers who will be there to just get a glimpse of how the sessions will be. So that is maybe all the interesting activities we find like we can highlight. And then you can find us on YouTube and GitHub. That is the names either on YouTube and GitHub. So I, who is the moderator for the session today, I'm Haron Wangireka, Android developer at AppsLab. That is my Twitter handle in case you want to reach me. And I'll let our speaker for today introduce himself. I don't want to preempt what he has for today. So I'll let him introduce himself and then introduce the topic. Michael?
All right. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Oh, let me switch on my webcam in case people don't know how I look like. Where is that button? Oh, it's on the bottom left. So I am Michael Bukacci. As the title is, I am a software engineer at FarmDrive. It's a company with agro produce and farmers and a lot. It's all about agro business. We are a Python specific company, specializing in Flask. All our apps, most of our actually are written in Flask, and Android Kotlin to be specific. Yeah, that's a brief introduction about me. If you have any questions, you could post it in the chat. Yeah, so I think I'll get started. Can I share my screen? Oh, it is in Android. Okay.
So that will be the topic for today. Yeah, so hang on and see what we have on testing.
Right.
So let me stop sharing my screen. Yeah.
All right. I don't have the permissions.
In a few. So you should be able to share your screen right now.
Okay. I think I'll share the entire desktop. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, I had some slides open. Okay. I don't think, do I need to put it in full screen or you can all see it clearly?
I think either can work.
Yeah. So I decided to name the session A Gentle Introduction into Testing, and gentle is in quotes. Okay, so I don't know what range of audience I have today. I hope all of you are familiar with testing, whether it's just something you've had or something you actually do day to day. I'll try to cover a bit of basics and also cover a bit of concepts around testing. Then we'll dive deep into the code and I'll show you a bit of demos on how I go about testing Android apps for maximum productivity. Okay, so a gentle introduction into Android. I'll be with everyone or the audience. Testing in Android is a pain. It's not enjoyable. The tooling and frameworks take a bit of time to actually get used to and understand. It's a lot, but it's something once you, which once you get familiar with, it becomes, it's like a walk in the park, for lack of better words. Yeah. Yeah. Here's a quote I saw somewhere. I saw it. It went like, the best time to write tests is when you don't feel it, which is usually like all the time. I think most of the time when I write tests for any of the apps I work on, be it hobby projects or actual work stuff, it's usually like a bother. It's like a, you know, test. I hope we all we all understand Swahili. I do. Okay, I'll try to stick it to English. Yeah, so things which you like. Why have to do this again? That's really the feeling I get when I have to write tests. But I understand the necessity of writing tests. It has saved a lot of trouble at work. It has helped to boost our productivity like ×2 or ×3. We spend very little time debugging or fixing bugs. Since most of our tests you cover a lot of uses already, so it's really very snappy when it comes to writing maintainable code and adding features to the existing code. This is a picture I shared a while back. No, is it like 2 weeks ago on the Android 254 group? This is the reality of testing in Android. Yes, there's content. Yes, there's a movement on testing in Android, but this is the reality in Android, especially in Africa, specifically Kenya. devs just don't test. They don't write automated tests for their code. It's usually a lot of manual testing. I remember a while back, I think in the Telegram group, where there was someone who was really complaining about the shutdown of MLab. From what I gather, is MLab used to offer like devices for testing, so it used to be very, very popular among devs who are starting out in certain Android or established devs who just needed like an extra device to like really cover all their bases when it comes to different models and makes, and just make sure their app work across different devices. But it spoke a lot about the way we wrote our Android apps. As yeah, manual testing is important. It's essential actually. It's very hard to actually write an app or do any project without actually going through the manual process. But I don't think it should be the core of testing our Android apps. Let me give you a simple. You're working on maybe a checkout screen where a user selects some products, they add it to a cart, then they're supposed to check out. That's a simple use case. That's maybe around 1 or 2 screens, depending on how you've written the logic. But then what happens is when you have like 10 different screens, you have a flow which goes to 10 different screens. Especially when you're working with NGOs or CBOs or some of these government organizations, you use a lot of crude apps, which you have like 5 different pages of just form information. So testing it the first time, that's usually like, yeah. There's a lot of excitement. You see how everything displays, how everything looks. You are getting good feedback. Second time, yeah. Third, 10th time, you're like, really? It gets boring. It gets really boring. And from what I gather, a lot of devs out there, they would love to figure out how to automate this process of testing the code, but they just don't know where to start, or they're having difficulties getting familiar with the frameworks or methodologies, which I understand. Yeah, it's on Android, it's really hard. That's the diagram of testing on Android in Kenya specifically. Manual testing is like, it's the biggest, it has the biggest user base. Then you go down to some people who write more UI tests than anything else. Then there's some integration tests. Then finally at the bottom of the pyramid are unit tests. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's the general. This is the basic overview of Android development in Kenya, right? And test the apps. Okay, so when it comes to testing in Android, there's a couple of things to get familiar with. There's tools and libraries. Tools currently, because we only have an ID for Android, and that's Android Studio. Then when it comes to tooling, that's the best. That's the best you've got. I don't think there's an alternative to Android Studio currently. Discussions where people mentioned VS Code, but no, it's not worth it. The amount of effort you have to put to make it work with Android specifically is just, there's no return investment, so it's really worth it. So when it comes to tooling, there's Android Studio. It has a really good test. It has improved over the years, so it gets better and better over each release. When it comes to libraries, there's Mockito, there's Mock, and there's Fix. Oh, sorry, I am a Kotlin fan, so this is a make. I can't believe I put Mockito before Mock. Much better. Okay, where was I? Yes, Mockito, and Fix. So these are just ways of providing fake data to your tests, that you don't end up dealing with real-world objects or real-world APIs or real-world situations. Explain why we did mocks or fakes. Whether it's a mock or fake depends on the developer, and also it depends on the situation. Then there's Espresso or Cacao. This is usually useful for writing integration or UI tests specifically. Espresso is provided by Google. Cacao is a library which is built upon Espresso. It's written in Kotlin and provides very nice syntactic sugar for developers. Something which goes hand in hand with testing is also DI, which is dependency injection. Most something which I've found that a lot of developers don't understand is if you want to be able to write automated tests for your code, you have to structure your code in a specific way so that it's easier to test specific units in isolation. When I say unit, it can be a class, it can be a group of classes, it can be a specific function. Yeah, on Android, when it comes to DI, there's two frameworks which are quite popular. There is Dagger and there's Coin, which is a Kotlin specific framework. There's also Codain, I guess, Toothpick. Yeah, those are the four major dependency injection libraries on Android. Which one you choose is a matter of personal preference, but they all help to structure your code better so that you can replace objects or in your graph for testing. There's Power Mockito. This, I will boldly say, this is an abomination. Which, as an Android developer, you should avoid this library at all costs. One, it breaks a lot of rules when it comes to solid. Yeah, breaks a lot of rules on solid. It exposes private classes. It does not enforce abstractions. It's a tool which worked back in the day when tooling and libraries were just far behind. But these days, I would not recommend using Power Mockito for any situation. Surprisingly, I think I see it. I see it still being used in Google Code Labs, for especially some of the code labs for UI tests or integration tests. So I don't know why they still use it, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend using Power Mockito. For today's session, we'll be using a repo from Harun. He shared it with me earlier this week. It's called Jetpack and Splash. I haven't gotten an opportunity to actually look at the code, so it'll be like uncharted territory for me. So this will be interesting, trying to add tests to that project. Oh, finally, yes. Yeah, this is I think most of you have already seen the image for testing. This is how testing should be applied in a typical project. You have your unit tests at the bottom. Then you have your integration tests. Finally, then you have your E2E tests, then manual tests. They put it in the cloud, meaning it's in most situations you don't really have to go to do manual tests unless maybe you have a QA team or you're a really big company. So this is the right testing pyramid. You should always have your unit tests. Most of your tests should be unit tests. The reason why I say most of your tests should be unit tests is because unit tests are fast. They are supposed to give you instant feedback. There's nothing as good as a test suite which runs really quickly and shows you what's wrong with their code or what's right with their code really quickly. So that should be the large portion of your tests. The faster, the better. Then there's the integration test. We had a very long argument with someone the other day on what integrations are or what they aren't. That's a discussion for another day. There's E2E tests, which are usually UI tests, or for some companies, usually like end-to-end tests, there's database connections, UI, track calls, API calls, as in the whole process. As if basically an automated way of simulating of your manual tests. Okay, I think that's the end of the slide. So we can get into the code. I think let me just close this. I launched. Oh, I haven't even opened it. So this should be really interesting. I hope Harun writes clean code. Harun, do you write code?
Let's see.
Okay, it's called Jetpack. Okay, so are there any questions as Android Studio does its thing of loading for like, that loading for how long? Loading. Okay, so as loads, what was a testing joke?
The famous one. If you write no tests.
Yes. You don't write any tests, then nothing will fail. there's no fail like there are no tests. Which actually makes sense. Back in the days when I started out testing and I used to hit snags, then just make CI pass, I used to like just disable the test and get to it like later. Yes, it's a bad habit, but yeah, it was useful at that point. Okay, so yes, and the studio is still downloading whatever it's doing. Meantime, I'll walk you through some of the libraries I usually use. I started with the mocking frameworks. So the first one is called mock with double K. It is a fast framework. So if you are dealing with the Kotlin code base, I recommend using mock. It's mock.io. That's the website. It's very handy. It has a lot to offer. It's like Mockito but built for Kotlin. Yeah, you can use Mockito for Kotlin, but then it has for you to make it work. Usually, you have to add an extra dependency. And then since Mockito is not built for Kotlin, it was built for Java, it just supports Kotlin because of Kotlin's interpolation with Java. I'm just going for mock because I don't know, I just have a principle of going for library first. Libraries which are specific, which are built for a specific language. So in case like mock, in Ktor, yeah, just to mention, yeah, but mock is a really good library for mocking. There's also Mockito. I've not used Mockito in quite time after mock came out, but it's also very useful if you prefer Mockito, and as long as you're able to mock dependencies, then there's no issue. Okay, then there's Espresso. I think most people are familiar with Espresso. It's part of official. Okay, that gave me coffee. Oh yes, it's part of Google's official libraries. I think I don't know if it's not on the Jetpack. It's a new library. So yeah, there's Espresso. It's writing UI tests. Then there's Kakao, which is built upon Espresso, but it has improved the syntax. It has one set of screens which you test your UI according to by categorizing them as screens. If you are getting into UI testing for the first time, I highly recommend you get into Kakao for Espresso. A good example is this syntax here. This is a typical Espresso syntax. Kakao just makes it so much easier. That's the way you form your UI components, your libraries on screen. Yeah, even it's almost like it's in English on screen. Does the phone element have text? I'll demo it how I usually use it to write UI tests. I think Android should have. Yeah, it's still thinking. My goodness, Aaron, what did you put into this project?
I think it has to fetch like the DSL and all that.
Yeah.
Angular 6 point something, 6.11.
Oh, use that different. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I understand. So yeah, so I think these are usually my three major libraries when writing tests. There is I rarely use Espresso. There's Kakao, then there's mock, and then there's Kito if I'm working on a Java code base. There is dependency injection. There's coin. No, it's not coin. Yeah, it's not coin. There is There's a new Dagger hilt, which is built upon Dagger. Again, opinionated way of doing dependency injection using. Yeah, so this is coin. People say it's a service locator. Others say it's a dependency injection library. I don't know. it does the job. That's what that's what it does. It does the job. Yeah. So this is what I usually use for Kotlin. Okay, so for some Kotlin projects, not really all of them. It depends on the project. If you was using Dagger before or it's a new project. If it's a new project, usually I'm using Dagger. So and it's still loading.
So as we wait maybe to finish, I think you have covered at least you have explained those libraries, but maybe why use mocking testing, why use the dependency injection in mocking.
Oh, okay. So I'll give you a scenario. Imagine you are writing an app which integrates an M-Pesa API or it integrates a custom API where there is maybe finance involved. You wouldn't want a situation where you're running your tests and you are triggering transactions or you're sending money to people. This is, or you are even doing some operations like some checks. Maybe if you have an API which is connected to TransUnion or CRB, and you are maybe charged 1 shilling per API call. You didn't want your tests to be running or to be calling the actual API because it's costly. It's costly. That's the fact. You don't, as a developer, you want to minimize cost as much as possible, especially when you're running tests. And the fact that you're running automated tests, you could run like 1,000 tests in a couple of seconds. Now imagine if you have like 100 of those tests making API calls to some bank or something. That can lead to a huge disaster. So this is why this is why the concept of mocking or fix come into play. That's just one reason. When you're testing any object or any unit, there's the whole idea of only focus on what you're testing. Any dependency, any that your object or your unit depends on should not deter you from testing what you need to test. So that's where the idea of fake mocks come into play. For instance, if for the example I gave earlier, where you are calling an API for M-Pesa something. So in that situation, maybe you'd provide a fake version of the API calls you usually make with your app, so that when you are doing the actual test or when you're writing a test, first you are sure that the actual call will not be made. When you make actual calls to maybe APIs or DBs or whatnot, it's really slow. First, so that the whole point of having instantaneous feedback, which is like the huge characteristic of a unit test, is already lost. So that's one reason why you have to provide mocks of X. The second reason is, you don't want the cost implications of doing actual calls during tests. So that's another reason why you'd use for mocks of X. Mocks are just, I would say mocks are basically fakes. The only difference is mocks is a library which has been written to produce fakes in an easier way. I think there's a time I've had this discussion with some devs where they were saying fakes are better, but then the question which I always ask them is, as your fakes grow, aren't you just creating another mocking library? So mocks are just fakes, but with a factory or a couple of utility classes for creating those fakes. You can ingest them as you see fit. Sometimes it's better to use fakes, sometimes it's better to use mocks. Dependency injection, yes, dependency injection forces you to architecture your app in a specific way. So it ensures that your objects are not created on the dependencies. I think Frank recently wrote an article on dependency, a very light overview on dependency, in which he explained really well. So you could check out that. I think Harun or Madak can the link in the chat. Oh, it's finally indexing. So I think we can start looking into the code base. So we have DI. Okay, so Karen made use of coin, so that makes things a lot easier. code is structured well as V models. You have your adapters, you have your views, activities, fragments, utilities, and you have your data layer where you have your local repo, your remote repo. Yeah. So there's two approaches you have when running on writing tests. You can either decide to write tests bottom up or top down. Bottom up is where you start with the lowest source of the data. So basically, I would start with the data layer, start testing objects and classes in the data layer, then go up the chain, going to the repo, then going to the view model, then finally finalizing on the UI layer. That's bottom up. Then there's the top down where you start now from the UI and you go down the layers until you reach the lowest object in the data layer. So choosing which approach to go for is usually a personal preference. I usually start from the top, going down. Or actually, it depends on which part of the code I start with. If I start with the data layer, then that's where I'll start writing my tests. If I start with the UI layer, that's where I'll start writing my tests. Okay, so yeah, so let's start writing a couple of tests. I think we can start with the view model. So here he's defined one view model. It has, okay, but this is an anemic view model. It doesn't do anything but convert data from the repo layer. So I guess we could go to the repo layer. Okay, yeah, so we have an interface here for the service. We have okay. So I guess we have to start with the model because it only has one function. So, yeah, so the first thing we need to do is look at what we have. We have one method which is called fetch photos. It returns a live data paging object from the photos repo. So if you look at the photos repo, the get photos function method basically returns a flow object, which is a bottling cold object. Yeah. So now the issue with this class is that he does not have an abstraction of the interface. This is the direct implementation. So when you have direct implementations of your objects, then it becomes very difficult to mock or repeat effects. So I think the first thing we need to do is provide an interface. So we go back to the view model. We need to provide an interface for this and replace it with replace the implementation with this. So we'll go back to where it's defined. Since it only has one method, that makes things easier. So we add an interface that has one function, which is called get photos. Okay, let's go. Photos repo int interface. Okay. Then it has one method, so we add the method blueprint, which returns a flow of paging data, which is of a photo object. So usually when you're adding tests for an existing code base, this is usually kind of the first step. You have to start, even before you start writing the actual test, you have to start like reorganizing your code so that it's more suited for testing. Yeah, so we've added we've made our photos repo class implement the photos repo interface. So now we need to go replace the dependency. where it's being provided. So where is it being provided? Oh, here it is. So we need to change this. We don't want it to. Good thing about coin, because of the way it's written, it's just a simple matter of providing the interface or casting it to the interface, and we're good to go. Then we just go back to our view model where we were using it instead. And here, instead of using the actual implementation, we change it to the interface. And just like that, we are ready to start testing. We've replaced the implementations with abstractions, so it becomes easier to replace out parts of what we're testing. Okay, so we need to start. We can start working on the test. So we are testing the view model, so we can say, okay, now how you organize your test, that's really a matter of personal preference. I usually like putting all my view models and any test which involves a view model and above, I put it in a package called UI. So yeah, so we'll add our first test. Let's call it photos. View model test. Okay, so this is our test. Currently it's empty, it doesn't have anything. So we need to add our dependencies, our first dependency. So we need two things. If you look at this, we will be mocking of replacing this interface with a fake. So we need to get a mocking library. Two, we need to provide the coin version of the coin test version, for dependency injection. So yeah, we will go to the mock documentation. They usually have it somewhere here. Yeah, I think it's yeah. And the latest version, I think it's 1.10. Yeah. See, Harun does not test his code. There's no test dependency. Okay, for now, okay, I won't add it to the build source for now, but then we can add it later once we add the test. And 0. And sync, that's the first, yeah, we can just sync that while we go see if we can get the coin dependency. So yeah, so we need to add this. This is a very useful library for dependency injection, especially for tests. So we can add that as well. So you probably had you're using coin, so yeah, there should be a version somewhere. Version. Libraries, build plugins. Yeah, version. So I can say coin. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, that for now, this is all we need for writing unit tests. In fact, most of the time, this is all I use when writing unit tests. You can decide to go fancy with some of the Kotlin specific or Java specific unit testing frameworks, which provide syntactic sugar, for lack of a better word. So yeah, so now that we have our dependencies, the first thing we need to do is we need to extend coin, the testing class for coin, auto close coin test. Then we need to have a before function where we'll be setting up our dependencies. Wait, supposed to be before. So supposed to call it setup. So this we need to provide provide our dependencies here. So We can make use of the start coin method. Provide the modules we need. Now, the advantage of writing unit tests and making use of dependencies, we only need to provide the dependencies which are necessary for writing this vmodel test. So we go back to our photos vmodel, we find that the only dependency we have is photos repo. And since that's the only dependency, that's the only thing we need to provide. So you can have a module here. Provide a singleton. Because we provide a fake or a mock, we make use of the mock library. We specify the type as the interface, since we always want to make the abstractions and not actual implementations. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. So now it's a matter of, because we're using coins dependency test library, we can inject our dependencies into this test. So repo, yeah, it was repo by inject. Yeah, so we've injected our mock. So basically, because we declared this as a singleton, when we're injecting it into this test, we are injecting the mock we declared down here. So we can start with our test. What do you need to test? So that it basically returns paging data. A live data about paging data. Oh, okay, that's a mouthful. So you can say it. Because we're using Kotlin, we can make use of the backticks. Test, fetch photos. I don't even try to test. Fetch photos, returns data. Test. So we've annotated with that. If we were practicing TD, then this would have been the first step: writing the test part, making sure it fails, then implementing the code, then refactoring, and continuing the three-step loop. But since this is code, we have existing code first, then this method is okay. So now we can create our vmodel. Then provide our repo. So now we have our vmodel and it's ready to be tested. I see a lot. I've seen. Okay, well, when back in the days when I started out testing, I used to confuse the whole mocking and it's being tested. So sometimes I even used to mocking what I'm actually testing. So like it was like a pointless endeavor. So yeah, you should not mock what you're testing. You should not mock the dependencies. So now we can try to call. We need to verify something. We need to define behaviors. So every repo dot get photos returns flow. Should be a flow of something. Yeah. And this is where it gets tricky. Paging data is a very okay. Wait, Aaron, is the paging data are using the Android? Is it your own class? Okay, this is
it's a Android one.
Okay, this is going to be hectic, but yeah, we'll make it work. we'll make it work. How okay? So you provide a flow. What?
The method returns live data.
Oh, it returns live data.
Yes.
But no, we need to provide fake implement. Yeah, we need to provide fake implementation. So, page data. Yeah, so there's oh, you can actually create it from the list. This even saves us a lot of time. So we will create an empty a list of one object. So we have our dummy data, dummy data list of. Then we can have at least one photo. What are there? Whoa, there's how do you do this? What are all these fields? Okay, we'll just make it work. Description, empty list, empty list. Wait, what's categories? That's any.
Yeah, you can create any.
Okay, that's fine. Then we have a color. So let's give it red. We don't care about the date. Another empty list. Oops, I have lost my prediction. I don't know where I am. There we are. So description, height with 10 or 2 meters. Then we have an ID, that by user. Oh, oops, sorry. Oops. True. Likes, 10 likes. Promoted at, that's links. Links, wait, links is it's a nested object. Okay, these are nested objects.
Yeah, but I think you can maybe strip down to.
I can.
You can strip down the data class. It has a lot of.
Are they? Will it break anything? Okay.
No.
Are any of these objects nested? Like for instance, if I put links here, so then I add what sponsor? What? Yeah, sponsorship. What was next? I am lost. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, no, wait. All this, okay, you know, if you start stripping stuff, it'll break. Okay, let me just split my screen since. Okay, so where were we? We were at links. So our links is supposed to be a string. Okay. Just links. Now this is the most annoying part of writing tests. Okay, why is it not predicting? Oh, it's only a string, a string, a string, a string. Okay, so we're done with that. Then there's sponsorship. Oops. So sponsorship, okay. What does this take? Predict, oh, it's an empty list. Empty. Oh, empty list. A sponsor, what? Eh, nigga.
My take is maybe you can just strip down sponsorship because you're not going to make like an actual API call.
Will it break
Once you
anything?
make, no,
Where is
I've
it
not
being?
used. The only thing I've used is maybe links, so it cannot
Okay,
break anything.
so okay, so okay. What about user?
Yeah, you can remove the user.
URL?
I'm not sure, but you can
If
remove
it
them.
breaks, we'll We'll deal with it. So we have our, okay. So we had links, yeah. Then we have, okay, sponsorship, our updated art. So now we are here. Then now we have a 0 of it. Yeah, so yeah, we provide our dependencies. So we create a paginated data of dummy data. So every time this call is made, it should return a flow object. So now we can do the actual call. So fetch photos. This is a fetch photos. Oh, I forgot. You need to add the, what's that library called? The one for instant execution. What's that library for live data? Keep forgetting.
One for live testing.
Yeah, to be much more convenient than writing our own function.
Let me get the URL.
Anyway, so we need to add the rule because this is live data. We need to add the rule for getting instant. It's copy instant. Oh, we don't even have the dependency for that. Instant rule. We don't also we didn't add that, so we need to add it. Yeah, I'll just copy it to my other project. Which part? Oh, it's very lame. So we need to add this 3. Oh, it's this one by Draska, live data testing.
Yeah.
For time, I'll just add those there. Then I add this one. Yeah, this is a very useful library for. Yeah, so there's also this library, Draska, run by, I can't pronounce that name. Draska live, yeah, this one. It has some very nice Kotlin syntax for testing your live data. You don't have to add observables and create a custom utility function for dealing with the observables. It just works out of the box, so it's very handy. We were supposed to actually sync this. I think it's synced already. Okay. That has synced, so we can test our instant task. Oh yeah, there you are. Okay, that's for live data. Then we can now do some assertions with our data. What was that? The test. Oh yeah. So now this is like an extension function from that library I've just shown you. So we can do some assertions. So this returns Oh, okay. Assert values. List of them data. Yeah. So we have our mock statement, we have the actual call, and we have the application down here. So this is usually the atypical test. You usually have the three parts. You have the mocking, if we are using any mocks. You have the actual call, and you have the verification. You can even do you can decide to do, because this is the V model is very anemic. We don't think we can add verification of behavior. But yeah, in some other tests, we would be able to add like verification of behavior. So we just assert state. We can also assert that maybe a method was called or a method was not called. Yeah, up here we are defining our dependencies. We are mocking our photos repo because that's what is being provided to the view model. We're instantiating the view model with that mock. We are creating some dummy data, using that data when you're defining the behavior of our mock, and then we're doing the actual call. So the moment of truth, we run the test. At this point, it tells us that something is okay. So yeah, this is really the general overview of view model tests. If you have God view models, then that's really a different case, because maybe there's a lot of logic going on, business logic going on in the view models. But if your view models are very lean, then most of the time you don't have a lot of unit tests to write for a view model, because chances are most of your logic is in maybe a use case or in the repo layer. Oops, that is. Wait, what? What is this? Photos DAO. What does that mean? But does not have any parameters to delete. What is wrong with the delete? The delete. Oops, no. I hate the why did switch that data. Where's your DAO? You have a delete, but there's not any parameters to delete. It's being used. Comment out everything. And run the test again. Unresolved reference. Can I just provide a dummy string here?
Yeah, you can provide.
Some key. Then the also unresolved. Oh, so you're actually using it in your adapter. Yes. Test is running. And it fails. Observer has never received any value. Oh, it's not being observed. Yeah, that's supposed to work out of the box. Flow of data, compatible of data. No. Ah, yeah, that's a creating scope.
So I think you can maybe remove the caching part since it's just like caches the data in the view model scope.
I was about to start adding run block now. It's going to go at the coroutines. See, main number is not mocked. Wait a minute. What is? Life cycle aware. Oh, it's a coroutines issue. We have to define the dispatcher. Oh, but then you don't have you don't have the test. You didn't add the coroutines dependency as well. So add that. Let's see. Yes. So this is the downside of testing on Android. So many dependencies. It's like using Keto. It's loaded though. It's loaded. Then we need to get that. We need to set up our dispatcher. Otherwise, we are going to have issues. Okay. And decide to add it right here. No, solve what is going on. Why is it giving me the wrong implementations? Oh, what's that? You know what? This one. Set up our dispatchers. Set our description from the JUnit runner. Extension function. Get the description. Yeah. So now we can load our new rule. Chances are, if you're using Java, you won't have to face this funny Kotlin issues. And you can set to add experimental to Java. So it does not keep status. So we run our test. Hope it works. Right. Oh, so it's been recognized as a different object. So is it okay? Is it possible to extract the actual list?
No, with paging, no.
You can't get a list out of it.
Unless you change like the implementation details.
It will have to break a lot of stuff.
I had the same issue today, like trying to get like the actual list from the paging object.
There's no easy way of doing it. There's no extension library or something. Everything we can. This is the paging library theory, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So we cannot verify. So how do you get like a single object out of?
Baked in the library, since you have to just submit this list to a recycler.
That's a bummer. So what options do we have? I don't want to start changing implementations. Maybe just add a new function. Yeah, that will be the easiest way. Okay, so here we have fetch photos. fetch photos to scans and live data list of photo, then is equal to this, but this, okay, good. So you also have to go change the abstraction all the way to the implementation. Why you bound your entire app to Android's Google's dependencies? List. Okay. We're not really interested in the, okay, although now, because now we're writing a new method, it's like we're doing in TED, because the test is there, but get those two as live. Okay, so we're good. Can we change that? So instead of dealing with flow of empty, no, flow of empty system photo. So return. So for the current, it's just a dummy method for the test. So we dummy data. Change this to change that assert now the value. I think we can do assert. We can assert the list without it bringing issues. So photos 2. Call the second one. Yeah, I think now we are set. Yes, and our test, right? Pass. So because we can't the page data is not as simple. It's not considered a simple Java object. It's a complex. So the dummy version we produce here and the new one we create here is not technically the same because they have different addresses. But in the case of a simple list, Java is able to somehow assert that the values inside are the same. So yeah, so that's how you write a unit test for a method. I know this was very hacky. We changed a lot of stuff. But I guess that's really part of the process. There's usually a lot of refactoring involved when it comes to writing unit tests. But now that we've changed code, will this thing break or would it break? No, will it break?
Which part?
Like if I was to launch this app, I want to try to add one simple UI test.
You should run, I think, a couple of things will break.
Like what?
First of all, the URLs.
Oh, it's ready. So they did not handle the null or empty cases.
No, it will ignore.
It will run. Will it run?
We can try.
Okay. No harm in trying. I think I'll just use an emulator. How much RAM am I running? I'm at 13 GB. Live on the edge. Launch it. So that we're going to now try to write UI tests. Any questions? Now is the time. I don't know how this will take to actually launch.
There was a statement you said you don't mock what you use.
Yes, you're not supposed to mock the test. So for instance, right now we were testing the V model. We were testing the fetch force to view function of the V model. If we are to mock the V model, then it becomes pointless because we've already replaced whatever we are testing with a fake implementation. So nothing anymore. So wants to like maybe monitor like behavior of a class you're testing, but you don't want to test set. You can now, there's a concept called spying in mocking. So it's not you take a real implementation and just spy. You just monitor the calls of that object. So you can use that to do verification calls. Besides that, then you're really not supposed to mock what you're testing. It just beats the point. Oh, that actually was pretty quick. It crashed. The pointer. Well, then that's fine. That's if the null came from what? Came from the paging source. That's still perfectly fine. How many screens are we dealing with? Only one or two?
It's only one.
How many fragments?
One.
You only have one. It's not. What about playground? What's this playground?
I
Oh,
never.
that's nothing.
Yeah, I never completed the logic.
Oh, the way we've broken up the logic for loading the me. So chances it will break if you were to run. Will it break? No, it won't. I don't think it will. Okay, let's give it a shot.
It's because of the.
No, because we can actually mock. We can actually mock stuff. I don't think it will break. So yeah, so let's add a quick UI test. I think we are running out of time. So the name of this fragment. What's the name of the fragment? Fragments. Oh, photos fragment. So cancel. They just keep. So yeah, just a new class. Photos fragment test. It's a class. Want to run with. Why is it not predicted? Oh, 100. Change. Wait a minute. That's not it. We don't. We have it. That doesn't. This. Let's say this is a. Okay, this is right. So I would say it's. No, let's keep it a medium test. Okay, so we need to do a bit of bootstrapping. Since we are still using coin, we need to auto close. We forgot to provide coin to Mimi for the instrumented version. Actually, I have to do the same thing for mock. Where are these two? Where is this? Where is that label? Okay.
So that explains why we have Android test implementation and test implementation.
Yes. Okay, you can play around with the Gradle configuration so that you share dependencies, although it's really a mess. I think I've done it for when dealing with DFM, where you had some utility functions which you are using for both UI tests and unit tests, but then it gets messy because you have to really play around to make it work without any issues. Oh, we forgot one single library. Because we are testing a fragment, we need the fragment testing. Frame library. This is version 1.25. Interesting thing because we actually need to create an actual fragment. We can't create a test dependency. It has to be an actual dependency because in the background of this fragment basically creates an empty activity and loads your dummy fragment. So you cannot you use this as an Android test implementation. It won't work. So we need to think again. So we can continue adding autoclose. Yeah. So we need to go to our fragment. What are we dealing with? How many dependencies are we dealing with? We only have one. That's a view model. That makes things there for us. Okay, generally I don't mock the view model when I'm testing UI tests. I usually just think the UI is very tightly coupled to the view model, so I don't really mock it. So we can actually go to our previous test and just, where is it? Where is our test? Where is our test? Oh, here it is. So we can actually just set up all this. Yeah. And we are good to go. So now the only difference is now we need to provide the actual implementation of the model. So single photos. You could make the V model. I just don't do it generally because it's tied down to the life cycle. So things can get messy really quickly. So this is a mistake I usually lot of people make. They provide the entire dependency graph for UI tests. Like, that's really that you're actually approaching the lines of an E to E test the moment you do that. You should usually try to only provide the dependencies of the current screen. And maybe as far as the UI. After that, just mock it. Test items are shown. Photos are shown. Photos are. Apparently, there's still no support for backticks with UI tests, which is pretty annoying. So you really have to come up with some fancy syntax. Yes, so that so we need to launch our launch in container, launch fragment in container. Yes. We're dealing with the photos fragment. Fragment. Okay, we need this mistake I used to make a while back. I usually forget to provide the theme, which usually causes a lot of issues, especially if you're using MDC components. Theme, yeah, that should be sorted. So before that, we need to mock our. I think now we can use the original Nini. the original or the
Paging
paging
data.
data. Yeah, we can use that. So before we launch our fragment, we want to provide the dummy data it will be using. Wait, well, what was it called? Page data. Wait, what's the name of this?
Paging data.
Oh, paging. Oh, okay. Dummy data. Okay. So yeah, I think right now we can do a simple run to just make sure. But it's okay. Well, let's break the test. Set that. So that true is false. And to break it. We don't want a false positive. So right now we just write a false test up, but then just make sure that our dependencies are wired up properly. So now we can wait. No, it's supposed to be here. We run. Now we wait.
Will the test be affected by the crash?
Okay, it will just be false, but I think we should just see the quick pop-up. The UI come up and go down. Since we're not really asserting anything. No, we don't want, if you don't add that assert that is equal to false, it'll pass because you're not testing anything. So the test will just pass. Which is a good way to get around CI if you have CI on your tail. Just disable the assertions and all tests pass. It's all green. I am running out of available RAM. Oops. Oops, we have broken something. I see a lot of errors. What is this? Oh, you don't have the knee. Why is this using the old dependence? So this is actually broken. We need to add a dependency for testing. Where are you? Okay, I don't remember which is it, so I'm just going to add a login. But they've not updated the default template. Okay, okay, that's for the student version I'm using. They've not really updated the template you use for unit test, for UI test. So it's really, remove this. Remove it. Okay, we'll add calculator. Right now, let's focus on this test running. Interesting. Why did the ID not tell me by this? This is missing. It's like this test will definitely fail. Package is different. Okay, so yeah, that has. So just the right. Oh yeah, it did not have the right one. I really should fix this. Just that's the old one. Okay, that should fix that. What about here? Are we good? No, we're not. This is the wrong. This was the wrong one. We have to get the right one. What else? Okay, good. Yeah. So hopefully it will run without giving any funny errors. Usually the more you run your tests, the faster it's supposed to become, but since that's not the case today.
And can you run them on a real device, or is it specified on emulator?
You can, yeah, I can run them on a real device. Let me see if I can connect my phone. Okay, hold on. Nope. Oh, it's because of this. Why are we having this again? We don't need this. Do we need this? I'm not even sure. We don't need. And reference testing. What else? Oh, this old. Oh, so it was trying to pick up the dependencies from the unit test. So it was misbehaving. Connect my phone. So hopefully it'll launch, but the test should fail. Coin context, of course. So this is a situation where we have to okay, no. Yeah, now this presents a specific set of problems in dealing with the UI because the UI we are running is linked to the application instance. It's not using our new context, our new start coin instance. It's making use of the other of basically this entire module. So it's ignoring our dummy dependencies. It's loading all this. So this is what we needed to avoid. What we could try to say, like, we could try to load the coin modules directly. Then this might tell us to override stuff. But this is not the optimal way. The optimal way is we usually have to set up your own runner. Your own runner so that you can actually override the application, the launch of the main application, so that you actually launch your custom dependencies. So with Coin, it's okay. It's a bit technical, but it's straightforward. With Dagger, it's a bit hectic, overriding your application to provide test dependencies, because now usually you have to like make sure the annotation processor actually runs so that it produces the test dependencies. Then you link it to your tests. So it can get quite technical. I think I've written an article about it for both Dagger and Coin on how to actually set up your test application for UI tests. Should be somewhere on Medium. Coin override, yes. Let's use override. What? Oh, override. Now we have to override the dependencies you're providing. Okay, what have we forgotten? Oh, we added the wrong version of mock. There is really an Android specific version. Yep. Yeah, there's an Android specific version. Which has the right dex files for mocking. It took quite a bit of time to get it running. I remember there was a time it was actually having issues with 5 and below, 105 and below. Okay, let's think. Okay, so we can. I hope it's the same. I hope we don't have to change dependencies again. It's really the same. So this is one shortcut of actually like running or providing mocks to your UI. But the only issue is we are using the entire dependency graph defined in application. So if you have a lot of dependencies, it can get really slow. Good thing is the actual implementations are not being used because we are overriding them with our mocks. Bad news is we are loading the entire dependency graph. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's fast, it's easier to set up because you don't have to mess up with a custom instrumentation runner. But it's messy because now we have to deal with the entire graph every time we are dealing with dependencies. Yes, so our app launched, but it crashed because our test is supposed to crash, which is a good thing. Yeah, such faults is true. So we need to add Cacao now. Cacao. we can do a couple of a single assertion at Kakao, then finish this session. So Kakao is a very handy library for doing UI assertions. It has very nice syntax. It's very enjoyable. What's the latest version? I think it's, what is the latest version? What? Two 2.34. Yeah, so as it syncs, I think I mentioned earlier that Kakao has this whole concept of screens. So the test or the unit under question is a screen. A screen can have multiple components, from buttons to text views to inputs. So you can easily interact with any of those elements in a screen and perform a couple of assertions. It provides a very fluent and easy syntax to interact with the underlying Espresso API. So it's a very, please check it out. It's a very useful, it's a very good way to at least get into UI tests. I remember a couple of weeks back, we went through it and people have started writing UI tests for the first time. It's even Harun was considering joining the bandwagon of tests. So it's very very good library. He's already joined the bandwagon. Okay, so yeah, so as I said earlier, it has this concept of screens because we don't want to waste too much time. We can just define our screen right here. So we have our photos screen. It's supposed to extend the screen class from Kakao. So it's supposed to, then it's also an interface. Yeah, so once you define our screen, we can take a look at the XML file and see what we have. Okay, we have a progress bar, we have a recyclable, and we have a retry button. So we can decide to split vertical and add those items to our screen. Oh, here. So we can start with the button. Okay. So retry button. Key button. So Kakao has like its own syntax for interacting with the internal widgets of Espresso. It's button retry, yeah. So okay, then we have our progress bar. I don't think, wait, does it have a progress bar? Oh, it does. Interesting. Progress bar. Then finally, we can add our recycler view. Now, about the thing about the recycler view, it has a very interesting syntax. It's just weird. I guess it's because it's supposed to allow it to be really dynamic. I have to refer this one. I don't really remember the syntax of recycler view. Where is it? Oh yes, yeah, here it is. So we have to define an item, then define the actual recycler view. So we can decide to keep it out here. So class dot photo item. what extents are K is like item, okay. Then it takes the type as the type, as generic type. Wait, I think I missed some. Base type, oh, it takes a matcher. So this has to be fed into parent here. Okay, that, yeah. So now this item, okay, it's this one. So here we only have an image view. Interesting. So okay, and so we can so here we define the layout of the item. So I think there's a K image view. Yes. Provide the ID. So now we have to deal with this. We have to load everything up. No, text is supposed to be that way. So you have to provide a builder. Then right, that's not it. Item builder. So we have to buy the item. And our type is photo item. So you have to remove this. You have to have with ID. So r.rv photos. That's how we set up our recycler view with its items. So the way the query recycler view works is it allows you to as in set up your items the way you want, no matter which layout or whichever layout you want, it will work. That's the immediately dynamic. That's why the syntax is kind of complex. So yeah, so once we launch our fragment here, we need to and now we need to start interacting with. So on screen, there's a method called on screen. Takes a screen object, so photos. So yeah, now we can play around with we can do some couple of assertions. So we can try to let's try to see if we can verify if the progress bar is displayed. So we can say is completely displayed. We want to see if it's is displayed. Oh yeah, it is. Let's start with this assertion. So yeah, we've set up a screen. We've started interacting with the screen here on screen, and we're trying to verify if the progress bar is displayed when the app launches. So as you can see, the API for Kakao is very fluent, unlike what we're used to seeing on Espresso. It's a very, very fluent API. You should check it out. And they keep adding new components. You can also submit PRs to add new components if you have some custom use cases. They're usually very quick to review and add stuff.
So how does it cover third-party UI libraries?
How does it cover third-party UI libraries? If the UI library, the person who wrote the third-party UI library was very strict in terms of following the parent. For instance, creating a custom spinner from the spinner, as long as you have you follow the you don't change too much of the logic for, okay, not sure the loader. As long as you follow the original logic of whatever you're extending, it'll work out of the box. But if you have like a custom use case, I think there's something called the K view, which allows you to define how you relate to the custom component. So it's very extensive. It doesn't limit you to a specific way of using the library. Okay, is this because we are not using? Let's okay, now this is cheating. Let's just add like an idle. Don't do anything for like 2 seconds. Then do the assertion. So now this is now the disadvantages, the mess of UI testing, especially if your Nini is not really that fast. Harun, why is the screen white? It says it doesn't match. What are we missing? Is it the theme is wrong or? Yeah, provide the theme here. Yeah, I think that. Is something? Is there a specific way of that fragment? Oh, it has a photo of the left, but it's pretty straightforward. There's no.
There's no custom logic.
Yeah. There's no what you bind, you fetch, you show. It's like completely white. So it's because the data has already returned, or wait, did we put our did we do a mock? Yeah, we did. Every get photos returns the flow of page. Or is it because this is empty? What is supposed to be shown? I'm not sure what's supposed to be shown on the screen.
On a successful use case, it's supposed to show like a list of photos.
So is this a successful use case, or what use case are we doing it? Yeah, launch and come. Or is it because we have blank everywhere? No, that should not be the issue. Yeah, let me try to move the thing. Welcome to the world of UI debugging UI tests. So this is why UI tests are at the top of the pyramid and not at the bottom. No, it's not the theme. Fetch photos. Yeah. So yes, this is where yeah. Are we calling the right method? Yeah. We've marked the right method. You think where is it? Yeah, it's here. We've not changed the way it works. We've just this is the one we're using, not this one. But then you're mocking it, so even this doesn't really matter. Interesting. I don't know what's up.
Or maybe you can use the blank fragment with just as text view.
Ah, okay. So I use a different, I launch a different fragment.
Yeah. The playground one.
Oh, it only has a text view.
I think you can add a text view.
Oh, it has nothing. It has, yeah. Match parent, text, Geeks. So just like before, we have to define a screen. So the only difference is this one is, because it's a simple, it should be pretty straightforward. Playground screen. Takes the child as the generic type, which is very interesting. We have the text. Okay, text. You are not okay. Oh, we forgot to provide an ID. Geeks. So we are here. Yeah. Okay. R.id Geeks. Ah. So we can just launch this as a screen instead. So we can just change what we're doing here. You don't need all these. Wait, does it take any dependencies? That might it's no, it's
It's a
actually it's a
blank.
plain fragment. Blank. So there's nothing. We don't even need this. We don't need this mocks. We don't need this. They're all not needed. So we can launch it. Geeks or text and try to see if this displayed is displayed. Then change the playground. Huh. So yeah, and this is the wrong test. So that hopefully this should. This is a simple test, so I don't think it'll should. But then this is Android. Anything goes.
And is it affected by your navigation setup?
Not really, because you're not even using a navigation setup, unless maybe the fragment you are interacting with has like a bottom navigation of some kind. It's not supposed to, because you're not loading the navigation. I think there's actually a different way of testing navigation. It's very. You can test actually. Yeah, you can actually write unit tests for navigation. Okay, no, I would. Yeah, I call them unit tests. Yes, it works. There is the green. So yeah, that's a simple test. It's. I really hope you could have gotten the other one working, but seems like the code base is refusing. Yeah, so yeah, that's how you use. I don't decide to go for the full one. It's completely displayed.
I think Benson on the chat is saying the progress bar has been set to gone.
Oh, is that so? Interesting. Ah, no, wait. Oh, it has. Wait, but then why is it right? Why is that? Why is it right? Because it starts off. Oh, it uses the loading state. Wait, where is this loading state coming from? Did we forgot to provide this?
That comes from
Wait,
the library.
sorry, the load state.
Staging library, yeah.
Oh, is there a way to control it?
I think that is something maybe you can try later.
Okay. Yeah, because this is a gist of of setting up UI tests. This paging, is it the paging that data, or there's a different function for controlling? I think now I prefer paging too. This syntax
Yeah.
is this just puts you in a box.
Yeah, I
This
realized
is
some couple of things today also.
yeah, this is not nice. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think we can work on the other test because of the current issues we are facing. I'll definitely work on these tests tonight and try to push to Haron's repo so that anyone who's interested can see how it's set up for actual use case. Try to do for both custom instrumentation runner and this one where you just use all your dependencies but you override them. But that's the gist of testing. Once you have your screen, you can make assertions, you can scroll, you can type. It's very robust.
I think we can take questions.
Yes. I don't know. How do I get back to Zoom? I use that control. Oh, that's
Top.
okay. Open Zoom. No, that's on. That's good. Stop. Oh, back meeting. So yeah, that's the gist. Oh, I think it's the visibility is controlled by the paging, the load state of the paging library. So as soon as the life cycle took it's already affects the way its visibility is set. So as the moment it's not loading, it's already invisible. If it's loading, it's visible. So it's as soon as the life cycle is hooked. So there's no manual setting of visibility, it just hooks onto the paging library. So I think I have to really dive deep into that paging library. I don't like the way they've limited the functionality. The previous one was way more okay. The syntax was a bit more complex, but it was way more powerful. You could do so much more. Are there any questions? I think it's way past time. Way past time.
There's a question on chat.
Yes, okay. I'm with 3 different tests on Android. Is TDD actualizable? And 2, what's your typical flow when working on a new project assuming a set of variety tests? Okay, yes. TDD is actualizable for any test because TDD focuses on your business requirements. I have an app. It needs to fetch customer data from an API. That's the business requirement. So with that, you've already come up with the definition of a test. Now, how high level or low level that test is depends on which layer you're dealing with. If it's a unit test, probably you're dealing with more with the with the implementation details of that business logic. If the UI test, it's maybe you're just dealing with the screens. Same thing for E2E tests. You can always apply no matter which sector of the app you're dealing with. One thing you should note is the business requirement is not limited to the business in general. It's a business requirement can also be something which is a developer specific. So, for instance, you can write the business requirement is for you to provide a library which helps other developers produce fake data. That's a business requirement. So it's a very relative definition. It's cracks across the entire spectrum of developers, managers, and also the business in general. What's my typical workflow? That depends on which side of the app I'm starting. If it's the data layer, then I try to figure out how am I dealing with the data? Is it am I using a DB? Is it a network call? Is it user generated? Once I figure that out, then I start plotting which test to add or which test to do. Sometimes I want to do integration tests in quotes. Sometimes I want to do unit tests. Sometimes it's really like some utility function which is just very complex. But I start with tests. Sometimes I don't start with tests. It really depends. Most days I do to the tests first, then go to the actual logic because it's easier to track your progress that. But in a case where I don't do it, especially when I'm working with a legacy code base, you're dealing with refactoring, then in that case, you add tests to the existing code base. You make sure that everything that was working is still working. Then now you start the TDD cycle where you go red, green, refactor, red, green, refactor. So it really depends on the kind of code base I'm dealing with. But most time I start with the tests first, then go to the code base. I hope I've answered your question. TDD and UI tests. Yes, TDD also works with UI tests. Remember, with TDD, it's all about the business requirement. It's not about the granularity. I don't know how that word is pronounced. It's not about how small the test is or how atomic the test is. It's about the business requirement. So if your business requirement is I need a screen which moves from A to B, that's the business requirement. So you prepare a test which tests that business requirement. It's a very relative definition. So that's what TDD is about. In fact, TDD is not even about the code you're testing. It's about the test itself. That's what defines the definition of TDD. And what defines the definition is guided by the business requirements of what, it's guided by the business requirements. And the business requirements, I'm not referring to like a business in the typical sense. It can be very developer specific or very general. But TDD, yes, works also for UI tests. It's just that maybe in that case, maybe you'd have to. Actually, I've seen cases where people just add the UI test first. There's no logic. There's no data being fed into the UI, but they add the UI test first. They just want to see how maybe buttons flow from one state to another. It's very also I think with Flutter, they're really invested in the UI toolkit. So testing it is very, very, very easy and very specific. You can even do test different dimensions and densities. You can actually tap into the UI framework and verify logic on the UI without having to go through this entire process we have to go through on XML and Android. Hopefully Jetpack Compose will solve this for us. But yeah, you can actually run do TDD on UI tests without dealing with the lower layers. Are there any other questions? If not, I think Harun.
Okay, I think we can wind up. So thank you, Michael, for the session. It was very educational, and I think for me, like what I saw, like the moment you're in such a presentation and then you go try them on your own, things will start making sense. Yeah, because at times you don't see like I've never seen like a guide that shows you from start to the end, from setting up dependencies and all that. Yeah, so maybe after this session you can go try out maybe the various things that Michael has shown, and maybe in case you have questions you can reach out to him on Twitter, or maybe on the Telegram, or maybe under 254 Telegram group. Yeah, so that is all from me. Thank you all who have attended the session, and to this time. As you can see, testing is it's a huge topic which cannot be covered maybe in 1 hour. But at least you have seen like an overview of what testing is, and hopefully we'll get more people writing tests. So thank you all. Let me stop recording.